I'll call to order the February 18th, 2025 Cabarrus County Board of Commissioners meeting. If everyone will please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And if everyone will please remain standing, and we will have Dan Marshall from Capital Ministries give our invocation.
Would you join me in prayer, please? Our gracious Heavenly Father, we come into your presence this evening through the name of your Son and his finished work on our behalf. We acknowledge that you are the creator of all things and that you have placed us here to serve you and to carry out your plans and purposes. As we assemble here this evening, we ask you to work out your plans and purposes through these people who represent you. May they understand that they have a responsibility to live their lives in a manner that is pleasing to you, knowing that you will hold them, as well as all of us, accountable for the choices that we make. Lord, you have given each one of us a blank check, in a sense, that reflects the time and opportunities available to us, a blank check that we cash daily through the choices that we make. Our lives are the sum total of those choices. You have told us in Psalm 90, verse 12, teach us to number our days, that we may gain a heart of wisdom. Therefore, we ask that you teach each one of us, as well as these public servants, to number our days by making wise choices. All of us make choices. These public officials have made the choice to serve. Those of us here tonight have made the choice to be present, some to speak, some to provide staff support, others to listen and observe. As we are all under your authority, may we all choose to obey the exhortation of Ephesians 5, 15, and 16. Be very careful then how you live, whether serving, supporting, or speaking, not as unwise, but as wise, making the most of every opportunity, because the days are evil. We make these requests for these public servants, their staff, and those gathered here tonight. In Christ's name, amen.
Amen. All right, before we get started this evening, we are joined by one of our youth commissioners, and I will ask her to please introduce herself and maybe tell a little bit about yourself, where you're in school, and maybe some of your interests and subjects that you study.
My name is Amoria Rose, and I am a senior at West Cabarrus High School. I'm sorry. Amoria Rose, and I am currently a senior at West Cabarrus High School. I am the current HOSA president at our school, and this is my first year part of the Youth Commission Board.
Thank you very much. We welcome you here. Also, Commissioner Shue is unable to be here this evening. He wanted to send his regards. So I will call for a motion for the approval of the minutes.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Next, I'll call for approval of the agenda.
I make a motion to approve the agenda as presented with the changes on page 47.
Mr. Chairman,
Uh-huh.
I'd like to make a request that we remove the number 7 under the consent agenda, discuss it at a later time.
All right. Yes, before I ask you to amend your motion, when you say discuss at a later time, would you like to discuss that, move that to new business, or would you like to maybe discuss that at the retreat this weekend? That's
New business.
under new business? Okay. So if Commissioner Lindsay is willing to amend her motion.
I'll amend my agenda to approve the minutes with the change of the number 7, tax administration advertisement of delinquent taxes, to be moved to new business.
I'll second that.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries 4-1. All right, we will now move on to informal public comments. And our clerk of the board here will read your name, and as she reads your name, if you'll approach the microphone here. You'll have 3 minutes for your public comments if you'll speak directly into the microphone. And Once we have a speaker that is finished, she'll call for another.
Lauren, can I steal your thunder for just a minute? I did want to make sure that you all got the opportunity to meet Willow. She is here from our local animal shelter, and she is up for adoption, and she's right outside these doors if you would like to go visit with her and take her home.
First up, we have May Mack.
Hello, Commissioners and citizens of Cabarrus County. Tonight, I am here again demanding that this board cease and desist the unethical practices being followed in recent board appointments. I ask that the board stop their recent practice of intimidation and interference in board appointments, such as recently done in both the school board and the Human Services Advisory Board. Your efforts to ensure the appointment of community members that only hold beliefs or opinions that coincide with your own is detrimental to Cabarrus County. The creation of an echo chamber, defined as when your views are reinforced and alternative ideas are not considered, is bad for our community. Boards that have members that challenge one another and have differing perspectives lead to quantifiably more positive outcomes for organizations. This fact is supported by numerous peer-reviewed research studies, and the citizens of Cabarrus County will hold you accountable when your actions cause harm to our county. Your efforts to intimidate local boards using your current power to allocate funding through the budget process will not be forgotten or overlooked in future elections. I would like to remind each of the commissioners that the largest voting bloc in Cabarrus County are unaffiliated voters. While we may not be the loudest, we are the largest. Although some of the louder ones may try to paint a picture as though current board members recently won by an overwhelming majority, I would like to point out that if only 201 community members would have voted differently, then Ingrid Nurse would be looking at me from your podium. Alternatively, the two new members only won the primary by 160 votes. And that was after a highly energetic smear campaign against Commissioner Morris. So to put that in perspective, that means in the general election, only 0.08% of the population sided with the ideology that unfortunately a majority of this board currently represents. So please, I ask you to follow an open and transparent application process for all boards and committees, new and old, and to stop your interference in local board appointments for your own partisan gain. I ask you to be transparent, to have integrity, and to refrain from the divisive partisan games that you are playing to the detriment of our community. And for any concerned citizens listening, please consider coming to a Down Home, North Carolina meeting in Cabarrus. We are a nonpartisan community organizing group that works to build multiracial power for the good of our entire community. Thank you for your attention.
Nancy Hofferth.
Good evening, commissioners and citizens of this county. I have just a couple of observations that I wanted to share from some meetings I've attended recently. My name is Nancy Hoffer, by the way. I'm a retired teacher and a Cabarrus County citizen for almost 27 years. I attended the January 21st meeting of this board where Matt Barrier addressed everyone during public comments about resigning from his position with the county fair. Later in the meeting, Commissioner Wortman was allowed by Commissioner Miesmer to invite Mr. Barrier back to the podium. When asked if he would give reasons for his resignation, Mr. Barrier said he had a laundry list, but would not speak here because he feared retaliation and retribution. At the county school board meeting on January 13th, I listened as many people came to express which person they thought would be best to fill the newly vacated school board position. Many people spoke about what was best for students, for teachers, the kind of classroom experience candidates had, and their relationships with parents and others in the community. When all the comments were done, Rob Wallace, school board chair, said, and I quote, "Our most important relationship is to the county commissioners because they provide the funding. The only person who can do this the best is Shannon Lancaster," end quote. Is this because of her relationship to the chair of the Cabarrus County Republicans? It's time for transparency in this county and all boards and committees and commissions. Thank you.
Rick Hofferth.
Good evening, Commissioners. I'm Rick Hofferth of Harrisburg. I have been resident of Harrisburg and Cabarrus County for almost 28 years. I've paid my property taxes every year without complaint because I trust the county commissioners to make the right decisions and do the right things for all of the people in Cabarrus County, not just me or my family or my bank account. Transparency in government and from elected officials is a hot topic right now. We all want transparency, right? I believe every one of you would put transparency at the top of your list of how to conduct yourselves as county commissioners and as the whole county commission. In fact, the majority of you ran for office and are moving forward, calling for greater accountability and transparency in county government. I agree. At the last commission meeting, you took the action to establish the Commission on Financial Efficiency, quote, to bring the citizens of Cabarrus County more efficient and effective county services. Appointees are selected based on their background in government, the private sector, and or taxpayer advocacy. The Commission shall conduct reviews of financial, construction, and operational practices of county government and report its findings and recommendations back to the Cabarrus County Board of Commissioners for examination and final action. And in fact, since it was just a few days ago put on the county website, the first meeting is scheduled for February 20th, 2025, 6:30 p.m. in the Governmental Center Multipurpose Room, number 231. This is where we run into some problems. I was informed by county staff that this commission will not be listed on the county website because it is a non-traditional commission. It's not listed under government and then boards or committees. It's not listed under Board of Commissioners, boards and committees. In fact, the only place you can find it on the website, if you knew to look for it, is under public notices. And that notice has just been there a week. I was informed that there isn't an open and transparent application process to serve on this commission, as there is with all of the other boards and commissions. An example being the new Fair Advisory Board that was created in December. Interested persons, we were told, should just contact Commissioner Lindsay. It's time for transparency and for this commission to follow the same that they expect of others.
Thank you for your comments. Appreciate it.
Brendan O'Connor.
Hello, Commissioners. How you doing? Appreciate you all allowing us to share our piece. My name is Brendan O'Connor. I'm also part of Down Home, North Carolina. I've worked in community and economic development for over 15 years and recently became a PhD student at UNCC and live here in Concord. I came out because I've been hearing about the appointment process and it doesn't feel real democratic or transparent. On top of that, one of the committees is mimicking a supposed focus on efficiency by the Doge that billionaire Elon Musk is heading up, which in truth is recklessly gutting essential parts of our government without any meaningful assessment or transparency. So people are understandably wondering if the local Doge, the Cabarrus County version, is going to do the same. If we want efficiency, we should do it in the light of day and with open appointment processes. So my question is, why was the local Doge committee set up by 2 or 3 of the 5 commissioners without an open process for forming the committee in the first place, or an open process for appointments to it? I hope you all will take the time to answer those questions.
Jerry Anderson.
Jerry Anderson. My child was taken illegally by this county, and I've been talking about it for 3 years. We had legal paperwork. We had her taken away on a Saturday night. No response by the county manager for 3 years of why they took her on that night. Had an investigation that appeared to come up with nothing. The investigation crew's gone, and so I just need to keep on talking about this little charade of taking children and how far it goes. I called up a law firm of Hartselle over here, and lo and behold, if you call by cell phone, you get Christy E. Wilhelm's name written up there. And then if you ask them why, oh, she's been gone 15 years, but they got never around to taking that off. Leads me to say, this must have been an oversight, how you could put a county judge from Hartselle into office, nobody run against her this time, and a prosecutor for DSS who took my child and went in there. I say there was a lot of collusion involved because they suppressed this evidence right here of her being a federal helpless child, gave her no lawyers, and I just think I would never want to go into a courtroom where Jay White and her worked together. I told my son, I went the first time, and I said, you're not going to get no justice in here. Something's wrong. Now I find out they worked together. Slammed the gavel, they said, Christy Wilhelm used to keep Jay White's kids. And this is uncalled for. And whoever allowed it to happen, shame on you. Now, I think we ought to go to the, start an impeachment and let an inquiry happen. Or we can ask for a resignation, but something needs to be done. Jay White called me and threatened me, but you know, they had this relationship. I had legal papers, take my child. They gave me temporary custody, which is illegal. They had it on WBT. I went to get help for my federal helpless child, and my daughter's dead. And you know how hard it is to breathe sometimes? When you think about it, it's really hard. Can't get your breath. She can't get her breath now. She's dead. And my granddaughter, who I love to death, resembled my daughter, gone, taken. Why? No answer.
Jeter Anderson.
Good evening, Jeter Anderson. Yeah, y'all know the story. My sister, child taken here in Cabarrus, no answer why. It's, you know, it happens to be big business for a judge and a prosecutor. A child taken, that's money. And how these two work together and know each other and been in our county it was beyond me. I mean, he's serious. If you dial Hartzell Williams Law Firm, and y'all can call that number, is 704-786-5161. It comes up Christy Wilhelm. And that's wild, because you're going to win getting that law firm. Forget all these other lawyers. You might as well get Jay White, Hartzell, and Williams, because you get Christy Wilhelm across the way, you'll get a better deal. Her name pops up. She won't take her name off the, What kind of interest does she have in that law firm? Why is she still tied to it? I mean, I know she came from there and everything, but I wouldn't want none of my family members to go against Jay White and Christy Wilhelm, or anybody from that law firm for that matter. And I just think that's not good for our community to lose like that in our court. We lose our family, we lose our lives, we lose time, and all because of collusion, willful collusion. She knows what she's doing, and she knows why she's doing it. It's big business. There's big interest in children, little mixed children. And Mr. Anderson needs an answer why his child is going. I would suggest maybe a stipend of some sort until you get the answer. Y'all need to have some kind of incentive to get an answer why a child was removed by county agency, and why it don't match up with the police agency. And this veteran's benefits is tarnished. I mean, he goes and fights for his country and has a helpless child, and she's supposed to be treated with care due to her. And she didn't get that treatment. And what about the other schizophrenic individuals out here? How are they being treated? I seen on the news schizophrenic individual, in danger. They need help. They need assistance. Not my sister. My sister didn't even need a lawyer in Christy Wilhelm's court.
Steve Bellender.
That wasn't easy. Good evening, Commissioners. Thank you for this opportunity to speak. It seems some people are disruptive at these meetings for a reason. First and foremost, they don't want whoever is speaking to be heard. They also want to inhibit others from stating opinions that differ from their own. Every person has the opportunity to speak their mind for 3 minutes and should be able to do that without some inconsiderate person in the audience causing a disruption. I was not in attendance for last month's meeting, but I did watch it online. I don't know who they are because they were not on camera, but I heard some rude people commenting out of turn when others were speaking, especially when Commissioner Pittman had something to share. I feel that if these people are not civilized enough to conduct themselves with a measure of dignity, they should be removed immediately. One warning is enough. After that, our deputies should be escorting them out of the chambers and ban them from returning. Their lack of discipline was disgusting, and that they got away with it repeatedly was disappointing. For the future, I hope you'll take swift action if these rude people should return. Thank you.
Ingrid Nurse.
Great day. I'm Ingrid Nurse, born and raised in Cabarrus County. I am here because we are not using the taxpayers' dollars in the best interest of the people in the community. Still lack of transparency. I want to address the ongoing expenses that are continuing to contribute to $7 million in the deficit. As taxpayers, we did not agree or sign up for covering the cost of a library lease, and nor should we be responsible for paying maintenance fees. Decisions like these need to be made with open communication and accountability, ensuring the public funds are being allocated responsibly and with the consent of those footing the bill. How do you propose to address the $7 million deficit, along with the added expenses of, like stating, library lease, and now unknown to most that we're paying maintenance fees, and the rising lawyer cost with uncertain hours? Additionally, what is the reasoning behind seeking a county manager who is not from Cabarrus County, and how credible is that approach? In closing, how do you plan to reduce the deficit and ensure responsible financial management? Additionally, I spoke with several members in the homeless population who expressed the need for a safe place to park and stay, as well as assess the mobile showers and services for their pets. What protections are in place to safeguard our homeless population and address these essential needs? Also, I always say, as we adopt pets, we can adopt the homeless person, buy them a meal. Thank you. Ingrid Nurse, for the people, by the people, because I am the people.
Yolanda Rushing.
Yolanda Rushing, Concord, North Carolina. I had a speech prepared to address the board appointments, but I think that was done quite beautifully. So instead, I have a question. Why are people so afraid to speak up in this county? Why are their voices being silenced? And the more I thought and pondered, I came to a conclusion. Retaliation, children being removed, no one is being heard. But that's what we get here at Cabarrus County. Why are they so afraid? The community is a reflection of its leadership. And that leadership has been present for at least 20 plus years. It takes the community to be able to move the community forward. But when you have those individuals that have their own ideologies and their own beliefs, it misshapes the community. So how do we get the community back together? The debacle that's going on at the national level, we don't need that at the local level. Let's let them handle that. How about the commissioners focus what Cabarrus County needs? We don't need a mini-me Doge, because I don't know who's going to be Trump and who's going to be Musk. But let's just say, if they can't find waste, I'm sure they're not going to find waste. But the problem is, we know where the waste is. Misappropriation. We know things are not being spent where they need to be spent. I'll give one example. The Department of Safety of Public Training. Why do we need that? Why do we need to pump millions of dollars to fund more sheriffs when we need more teachers, more bus drivers, more resources for our children, and heaven forbid, what will happen when the grocery prices increase and gas prices increase? Ingrid was right. We can adopt dogs. Are you willing to adopt a homeless person? Are you willing to give them food? Because there's camps out there and nothing's being addressed because nobody wants that in their backyard. Well, guess what? I was told that in order to live here, I had to remain silent. I'm not doing that no more. I'm not. I am not going to be afraid to say what needs to be said. Children are being removed from homes improperly, and I believe Nancy Schaefer said it best. By the way, she is a Republican that was passed away fighting for the same thing I'm fighting for. The government is taking children from safe homes. The Child Protective Services are removing children from homes where they are not being abused and being placed in homes where they are abused.
Wesley Honeycutt.
Last meeting got a little heated, and I'm thankful to see it starting out differently here. Commissioner Workman, I debated having this conversation with you in private, and as always, I'm going to try to address it respectfully, but you've got my number if we need to talk afterwards. I felt the need to defend some of your colleagues publicly after what took place last meeting. I want you to imagine a world where you were on a building naming committee for Cabarrus County. If at some point I was in a place to appoint members to that committee, you probably know that based on my prior public comments and the conversation that we had over breakfast that I would take you off that committee. It wouldn't be because I don't like the suit that you're wearing. It wouldn't be because your last name starts with the same letter as my first name. It would be solely because we have different views on how we should name buildings. There was discussion last meeting about Ingrid Nurse potentially being removed from the Planning and Zoning Commission. I don't know if she remembers, but Ingrid and I have had multiple conversations in these chambers. She's always been nice to me. But I can tell you just by listening to the things everyone said on the campaign trail that Ingrid and the new commissioners have different views for growth in Cabarrus County. At all levels of government, it's not an uncommon practice to make appointments on commissions with individuals who are aligned with goals and an elected official laid out. I imagine this is something that prior leadership did also. During the discussion, I felt the way that you asked your question stoked an already burning fire that this decision was somehow rooted in racism. I don't know the other commissioners as well as I do Laura, but she was part of the group that was accused of racism. And the comments that were made tonight about taking care of homeless people are timely because Laura is the type of person to take a homeless person into her own home to help her get back on her feet. The type of person who shows love to someone who needed it for no other reason than to be kind and compassionate. How many people do you know like that? How many people do you know that, as you all said, would take a homeless person into their house? There's one right there that's done it. I hear you all talk about how generous you have been with spending taxpayer money, and she's someone being generous with her own time and money, and you continue to tear her down. I hope that everyone in this room would be willing to help anyone else in this room if the opportunity presented itself. And even with the comments I hear going on while I speak, anyone in here had a flat tire, I'll help you change it. If you got a dead battery, I'll give you a jump. If you're hungry and you're not going to have enough food to your next paycheck, let's go get you something to eat after this. We can agree to disagree without ripping each other to shreds with our words. I've had a lot of good conversations since the last meeting with people who disagree with me, and I'm a firm believer that the Lord expects me to examine myself first, to not ignore the plank in my own eye while looking at the speck in any of yours. I recognize that I fall short. I can do better, and I think that we all can too. Thank you.
Chris Cranston.
Good evening. My name is Chris, a proud yet concerned Cabarrus County citizen. I want to spend a special thanks to the Youth Commissioner, Ms. Rose, for paying attention and being here with us tonight. I highly recommend that you and your peers begin researching and looking into home ownership and the current trends. When I was roughly your age, the average home first-time buyer was 29 years old. Today, it's almost 40. And it's still trending the wrong way. Watch and listen to these public servants carefully. Don't fall in love with their personalities, but rather listen and watch to what the consequences are of their policies, the tax codes, the tax increases, and of who they may shield from said policies. The fact that they have to shield anyone speaks all on its own. I remind you, you are the future, living in the present. You do not have to wonder or guess, as we are all living in the midst of the results of the policies. I pray I fulfill my calling, bringing attention and eyeballs towards these representatives and their policies that affect our lives in the deepest of ways. I pray today's youth won't be 50 years old and still hoping for an opportunity to own a home and some land to live on. If so, not only have those who sought, fought, and worked hard to represent you failed, but I have failed you as well. I promise to continue, as I also have 2 children, one getting married and starting his own family in the coming days. This is all very real to me. Whereas I may not be intimidated or scared to stand toe-to-toe with anyone, I would prefer shoulder to shoulder, arm in arm, lockstep in attempting to reverse many of these plain, asinine policies and approaches that allow the wealthiest to avoid the things the poorest of us never could. In closing, I want to add, my spirit soars. The momentum and impetus is growing stronger and stronger. The camaraderie, the cooperation, the love in the room is genuine and real for almost all of us. We are the majority and by a far margin. Do not doubt me, as I understand my voice speaks for tens of thousands of like-minded, God-fearing Christian conservatives residing in Cabarrus County. God is our creator, every one of us made in his image, and we are unique. I am not sorry he made me perfectly capable of calling out the wrongs I see in government. I will follow his commands to give unto Caesar what is Caesar's, but I will fight back when Caesar squanders and wastes what is rightfully ours. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Larry, and thank you, Laura. Do not waver. Do not digress. Do not stray from the path of finding ways to fight back and help shrink extremely bloated government spending. You are beloved, and I am so very thankful for each of you. Keep pounding.
Tim Taylor.
Tim Taylor, been a resident of Cabarrus County for almost 17 years. Thank you, Commissioners, for your time today. I come before you as a private citizen and father of 2 public school children, one who's sitting in the back, and I'm sure we'll have a very interesting car ride home explaining tonight. Voicing a concern shared by many in our community who cannot be here tonight, local funding for public education. Cabarrus County is one of the wealthiest counties in North Carolina, and depending on where you look, we can agree upon we're at least 10th. Some places are 5th, some places are 9th, but at least in the top 10 in terms of our wealth index, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics and IRS. Our school system is also strong, ranking 15th out of 115 districts in student performance, according to North Carolina Department of Public Instruction. Business leaders, as highlighted in the Cabarrus economic development literature, cite our educational system as a key driver of the county's rapid growth. Additionally, Concord was ranked among Fortune's top 20 U.S. cities for families and education, as education playing a major role in those decisions. Yet, despite our county's wealth and growth, Cabarrus County ranks 114th out of 115 districts in per pupil spending at the state level when combining state, local, and federal sources. At the local level, we rank 53rd out of 115, and that's money provided to the schools by the commissioners. How can this be in one of the North Carolina's richest counties? The Independent Tribune recently reported that year-over-year per pupil spending funding has decreased, even though the overall budget has increased due to student growth. Those details matter. How can per pupil spending decline amid rising costs and inflation? While the state legislatures debate their roles, we have the ability to act locally. I continue to encourage your advocacy at the state level. Your voice is powerful and should represent all citizens in the county. Simply, teachers' pay must be improved. North Carolina ranks near the bottom nationally, and veteran teachers in Cabarrus County and throughout the state receive minimal salary growth when left to the state. Some earn less than a $200 total raise in their last 14 years in education. They get a step at year 25 at about $200, and then they're beholden to the state of North Carolina for those increases. The past biennium, it was a 7.5% average. Most teachers in year 1 to 3 or year 1 to 4 got the highest increase, and teachers year 16 to 30 got less than 1% and a couple cups of coffee a month. Our teachers shouldn't have to work second and third jobs to make ends meet. Cabarrus County provides a 13% teacher supplement. Charlotte-Mecklenburg provides over 25%. I'm not asking for 25% for teachers. I think there's reasonable increases that can be made over a period of time. I applaud the incremental increases, the teacher supplement over the last few years, but more must be done. You have the ability to further validate the hard work of our educators by implementing meaningful supplement increases. A 5% increase would require about $8 million in local funding, putting $2,500 in teachers' hands, but would also provide an additional $2 million in funding to the state.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. All right, we're moving on now to the consent agenda. I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Moving on to new business. First item is a Duke Power right-of-way easement, and I believe we will have our deputy county manager present this to us.
Thank you. This is a request from Kannapolis City Schools on the Fred L. Wilson Elementary School property where they are doing the addition. We need to dedicate an easement for a new transformer and the associated lines that go with that.
Okay. And there is a map located, everyone can see on the computer. Is there any questions for Kelly? And I believe the map will be on the screen. It is on your computer here on page 108. Any questions for Kelly regarding this item? All right, I'll entertain a motion to approve the easement dedication and authorize the deputy county manager to execute the necessary documents upon the review of county legal staff.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Motion carries 4-0. Moving on to item 2, we have Jim Howden here for our fiscal year 2024 annual comprehensive financial report and audit.
Good afternoon, or good evening, Commissioners. Hope you're all doing well this evening. As part of the audit process, one of the things that needs to happen is the auditor is to come and present the audit report and a summary of the financials. You all should have received earlier today the complete ACFR with all of the whole audit that you can review. Please take time to review that over the next few weeks, next months. Don't hesitate to reach out to myself or Matt, who you'll meet here in a second, if you have any questions, and we'll do our best to answer them as quickly as possible. Matt Braswell is a senior manager with Martin Starnes and Associates. He has over 20 years of experience in the audit field. Him and his team performed our audit. They are really good at what they do. They're helpful. They're responsive to me and to my staff, and really appreciate the work that they do. And Matt's here to present the audit report.
Thanks, Jim. Thanks, sir. As Jim stated, my name is Matt Braswell. I'm a senior manager with Martin Starnes & Associates. We're the independent auditor who performs your yearly financial review and audit. This is a snapshot in time as of 6/30/2024, and so just want to give you some audit highlights, go through your general fund, talk about the increases, decreases there, and just to give you an overall little review. All right, we issued an unmodified opinion, which means that is a clean opinion. That means that your financial statements are in accordance with GAAP, generally accepted accounting principles, and materially correct. Very cooperative staff, Jim, everyone in the finance department, from HR to payroll to, we work with DSS staff, we work with the health department as well, testing your major federal and state programs. So everyone in the county, very, very helpful, very able to get us everything we need in a timely manner. So we do appreciate that, and we do not take that lightly. No findings or question calls to report. No material weaknesses or significant deficiencies to report as well. So that is a positive. And so just a few highlights here. As you can see, we compared your 2024 property tax revenue to 2023. You can see an increase there in property tax revenue and an increase in your collection rate as well, which is positive. And so to go through your general fund summary here, you can see 2024 compared to 2023, revenues exceeded expenditures by about $59 million. Revenues increased about $28 million, and we'll go into some causes for that increase there. Expenditures increased about $25 million. So we'll go into some of your top 3 revenue sources and top 3 expenditure sources to kind of highlight that. All right, as you can see, this chart here, you can see over the past 3 years, your general fund total, this is total fund balance in your general fund there. This includes the community investment fund as well. You can see a gradual increase there, and so total fund balance increased roughly $36.9 million in your general fund there. And this is your fund balance position in your general fund. This will show your restricted amounts, your committed amounts, your assigned, and just various resources that you have either internally restricted or externally restricted by a third party there. As you can see, your total fund balance is roughly $236 million. You have to take out your non-spendables. This is your prepaids and your inventories. Restricted amount, this is mainly made up of your stabilization by state statute or accounts receivable, money that you have not received in yet that is not available for appropriation. Committed, a majority of this is committed for your community investment fund, that CIF fund that you have. And then your assignment is for various other functions that are internally kind of committed to general government, public safety, other things that you have internally committed to do for future purposes there, to come up with an unassigned amount of roughly $83 million. And you can see compared to 2023, that's a decrease of about 6.4 there. So you have a little additional assigned amounts there in 2024. And so what this slide shows is your reserves on hand based on your unassigned fund balance that you have. So if you take the unassigned fund balance that we showed on the previous slide and you divide that into your expenditures for 2024 and expenditures for 2023, you can see roughly that you had in previous years about 25% reserves, and this year you have roughly 22% reserves. And so based on, if you look at the LGC calculation and various things, 8% roughly is 1 month's supply on hand there. So you roughly have 3 months supply that you could run the government for, basically 3 months with just your unassigned fund balance, nothing else. So that's what this slide is showing there. I'm sorry, did I? Oh, okay. Okay, and so we're going to go into your top 3 revenue sources. For any local government, your property tax revenue is going to be that main driver there. As you can see, roughly $8.8 million growth, or 4% of your property tax revenue there from previous year. Other taxes and licenses, very, very comparable to the prior year. Slight increase. Sales tax kind of stabilized for the 2024 fiscal year, so no major fluctuations here. Intergovernmental revenues, now this is going to be your, whether it's ARPA related or whether it's DSS related, federal and state grants there. And so overall fluctuation, increase in federal and state grants, either through DSS, Health Department, or just various other agencies there. So you can see an increase there of roughly $8 million or 19%. This is federal and state grants. Okay. Top 3 expenditure functions, human services, and this is going to kind of correlate with that intergovernmental revenue slide that we just talked about. If your federal and state grants go up, your human services to provide services to your citizens within there, whether they're receiving DSS or any type of health health aid or anything like that. So this increase there of about $6 million or 12%. Public safety. Had an increase of roughly $8 million, EMS up, detention center up, and sheriff expenses up as well. So, education had an increase of roughly $8 million or 8%. Your current expense for Cabarrus County Schools was up about $7 million, was the main driver there for your education expenses. Any questions, comments, or concerns?
Are there any questions from board members about the presentation?
So
So I'll ask you, how many municipalities do you work with in doing these audits? I'm assuming that this is what you specialize in. I know you've been before our board before, so.
Yes, sir.
So other counties, cities, and.
I do counties up toward Silva there. I do counties toward the coast. I roughly have about 17 that I manage, within the state there, and so about 20 years of doing that. So, but yes, I'm a governmental audit specialist. That is what I do. Yes, sir.
How are you seeing the not property tax, excuse me, sales tax compared to other? Because I know ours is leveling off.
It is.
And so how is that in comparison to other counties that you?
It depends where you're located. If you are more of a tourist type of, so like say some toward the mountain areas, different things like that, some of those counties are still seeing a little bit of growth, maybe 4 or 5%. Or if you're at Brunswick County toward the coast, different things, you're still seeing some of an increase there of travel wise. But overall within the central part of the state, it's pretty much stabilized within a couple percent. So unless you are in one of those main kind of areas, you're not seeing a tremendous amount of growth anymore. No, sir.
Okay. Any other questions? All right. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
All right. Next item on our agenda is finance, and we have Jim back for that.
Good evening again. This is for information purposes. So as part of our reserve fund balance policy, the unassigned balance, the percentage, the amount that is 15% greater than our current general fund budget, I am to move to our community investment fund as a transfer. And we do that mainly for capital projects and for deferred maintenance projects. We put the money in there, and then we're able to use that instead of going out for debt. So as Matt just provided, our unassigned fund balance was $83,031,215. Currently, the 15% that we need to hold back, which is roughly 2 months worth of funds available if something was to happen per our policy, is $59,427,253, which leaves $23,603,962 or 3, depending on rounding, dollars to be moved to the CIF fund.
Okay. And so there's a couple comments I wanted to make and maybe can help steer a little bit of the conversation. I know that this is part of our annual financial, policies that we review this, and I've seen in years past it be close to 40 million, and now I see it's 23 million here. One thing I would like to see is for us to not restrict ourselves with this funds if we transfer this over to the CIF to fund. And to answer some of the questions as far as the deficit, I can assure you I've had many conversations with our deputy county manager here, and she has been working very diligently on the budget, and this the deficit is almost closed. And so she has been working very hard to get that done. It's not formal yet because we're still in the process, and we will not vote on a budget until June. However, I feel very pleased with the hard work that they have been doing with the budget to address this deficit, and so I thank you for that. But I feel as though we're still up in the air. I mean, the times I've talked with the deputy manager, there's some days it's up, some days it comes down. It's a little bit of a up and down. And, if we transfer this money over to the CIF fund, then we somewhat tie our hands. And if we get in a situation where we could use some of this for that, I would like to see the board retain that flexibility. With that being said, that does not mean that we're going to neglect any of the cash projects that we will prioritize in the future. we go through this process every year and we prioritize cash projects. That doesn't mean we can't pay for them out of the general fund, doesn't mean we can't identify the projects and move a certain amount. I would feel a little more comfortable with for us to have a little flexibility for the next few months to see exactly where we land with the deficit. So that's kind of my opinions on that. Yes, sir.
Just as the newcomer, sorry if these are dumb questions, but just want to kind of feel it out a little bit. So, and we can go offline too, but just kind of just given those comments from the chair, like what is the time sensitivity of the transfer? Has it happened yet? That kind of thing?
It has not.
Okay.
I don't think there is a time sensitive. A lot of times when we transfer the funds, they are really used for the next year's budget.
Sure.
For some of those projects that the commissioners would like to handle.
Yeah. And I think so if we needed money to cover the deficit, that decision, they could not transfer it today, so to speak. You could not transfer it today. Right. Hold on to it for, even to the next meeting so the board can have some discussion about what to do internally with that. Is that an option?
It is for me, yes.
Yeah.
And that's something that we could, we can even address with this upcoming budget. At that time, it could be incorporated in that budget as well if we want to transfer then. So there's no timeline.
Correct. I know it's one of our policies, but there's no timeline that says it has to be done at this certain time.
Okay. How do the other commissioners feel about that discussion? Just so we can give some direction. I know it doesn't seem like we're going to take a formal vote on this, but just to give you direction and consensus.
I mean, my same thought is I completely agree with the chair. I do think that we should have that money on hand just in case. And again, I want to echo too, thankful for the deputy manager who has been working diligently with all of you regarding closing this budget. But I do think until we do have some things solidified, it would be a good idea to make sure that we have access to that money.
Chairman, I tend to agree with you. I would prefer to see that money stay in the general fund in case we need it for something. That it'd be tough maybe getting it out of some other pot if we needed it. Plus, I think that would tend towards one of my goals, which is to reduce the budget overall. Remove wasteful and inappropriate spending on things that's none of the government's business. And so hopefully that would help be a bridge to that if we leave it in the general fund.
And just as I had mentioned before, we absolutely can still address school needs with this money. We have air conditioned units each year that we pay cash for and we'll still be able to address some of those needs, if not all of them, but just so we have some flexibility. Commissioner Wortman.
Is this the fund that we met about that it's like a savings account that this money goes in and that allows us to take care of those projects to where we don't have to raise taxes? That's the pay-go project?
That is correct.
So is there a benefit in putting it in that versus leaving it on?
We can really leave it in either spot. We can move it, when we move it to the community investment fund, it's there, and we usually direct it towards capital projects or those pay-go or deferred maintenance projects. But as Chairman Meismer is saying, we could leave it in the general fund, and then as we do the budget process, move it accordingly for those projects you'd all decide to do.
And my thought process on that is just so we're not tying our hands this evening. And so we have a little bit of time with this uncertain budget time. It gives us a little bit more time to kind of think about it and not completely tie our hands at the moment. So everybody okay with that? You have the direction you need?
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Jim.
Yes.
All right, we'll move on to the next item, and this is appointments to the Human Service Advisory Board, and we do have Assistant County Manager Elise Pugh here to tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. I just have some talking points that I'll go over, and if there are any questions, please let me know.
So the nominee is completing the incompleted term of an outgoing board member who opted to step down a year early. Her term expires on December of this year, December of 2025. So the nominee is just completing the remainder of that term of that person who opted to step down early. That individual just happened to have a background in public health. We already have a relatively new board member, Erin Shue, who is our public health director, who obviously has a full background in public health. And so we have that need met with the appointment of Erin Shue, and she was appointed to our board in November of 2024, so just a few months ago. I also just wanted to point out that this is an advisory board. It's not a decision-making board. So the board's role is to advise and support and advocate for our human services operations. And I think that is something I just wanted to elucidate. And then in terms of the composition of our Consolidated Human Services Agency, we have social services, veteran services, we also have behavioral health, publicly funded transportation, and our opioid settlements. That's all part of our consolidated agency. So we do try to get board members who kind of reflect those different areas in one way or another. The other point that I just wanted to mention, that there are no statutory requirements for an advisory board in the state of North Carolina. I actually just spoke with our School of Government expert about that earlier today, and she confirmed that there are no statutory requirements for an advisory board. So really it's up to us as a local government to decide what we want that board to look like. And what we have historically opted to do is to, again, find those niche areas that we want represented on our board. And currently, as I already mentioned, we have our public health director. We have a retired veteran, so that's wonderful for our veteran services area. We have an administrator at Atrium Health, a nurse administrator, so we have somebody else with a kind of a healthcare lens. We have someone who's on faculty at UNC Charlotte. We have our Commissioner Liaison, who is Commissioner Meismer. And then this individual, the nominee, my understanding is she's a retired educator, and she was recently appointed to the school board. So that's another area that would just really kind of diversify the spectrum of representation on our Human Services Advisory Board.
Thank you, Elise. Are there any questions or?
And I had asked for this one to be pulled off last meeting until we got the dates, and there were 21 applications on file ranging from February 17th, 2023 to November 18th, 2024, and then the new one that was submitted January 9th, 2025. I do know one of those, I'm not going to put the names out there, but one of those is a member of the school system. So I was just curious how that process works, since there was 21 other applications and one was in the school system. Can you explain kind of how that process happened with just going with the newest one?
And yeah, generally, the way the process works is that the chair and the vice chair of the boards review applications, come up with a candidate that they want to put forth to the board. The board themselves votes, and with this recommendation to the board, it was voted on unanimously by the DSS board to recommend to the commission board that Shannon Lancaster would be appointed. So it did go through the process of chair, vice chair reviewing it, bringing a suggestion, and then a vote of that board. So. And so Marie Dockery is...
She's the one who stepped down.
Okay, yep, she's the one who stepped down. So we'll need a motion to remove her.
That's correct.
Since she has resigned, and then or stepping down, and then we'll need a motion to appoint Mrs. Lancaster. So
that's correct.
All right, so I will entertain a motion to remove Marie Dockery from the Human Services Advisory Board and thank her for her service.
Mr. Chairman, I make that motion, and I do want to say we do appreciate the service that she's given, and
yes,
I hope she knows that. I hope we make sure she knows that.
That's right. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries 4-0. All right, I'll entertain a motion to appoint Shannon Lancaster to the Human Services Advisory Board to fill the unexpired term ending December 31st, 2025.
I'll make the motion to accept Shannon Lancaster's position for that, and I do appreciate her willing to serve as well in that role.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
Motion carries 3-1. All right, thank you. All right, next item on our agenda is the Board of Commissioners liaison positions. And this particular item was requested by Commissioner Wortman. And so I'll turn it over to you.
You know, we've discussed this, and it's for Mike Downs' position on the Visitors Bureau. He is still a member on there. That was a board I truly enjoyed working on, and things got reshuffled, and I am currently enjoying the new ones that I'm on as well. But with that opportunity to go back and serve on the board, I would like to make the motion that we remove Mike Downs from that spot, and I would like to go back on that board.
Okay. We'll probably need to do that in 2 motions. Would that be correct? And then I'll ask the clerk, do you know the expiration of that term for that? Okay. So we will just make the motion to fill out the expiring term. Yep. All right, so the first motion, I'll entertain a motion to remove Mike Downs from the Cabarrus Visitors Bureau, the CVB board, which is one of our county appointments. We have 3 appointments to that spot. So myself I'm one. We have to have a hotel individual that represents the hotel industry, and then we had former manager Mike Downs. So I'll entertain a motion to remove Mike Downs from the Cabarrus Visitors Bureau.
So moved.
Do I have a second? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries 4-0. All right, and I will entertain a motion to appoint Commissioner Wortman to the unexpired term to be determined by our clerk for the Cabarrus Visitors Bureau.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 4-0. All right, now we will move on to item F6, which was an item that was removed from our consent agenda, and I will turn the floor over to Commissioner Pittman, who removed this item from our consent agenda. We also have our tax administrator here, David Thrift, who I'm sure would be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to express a concern, because I know this is customary, usual practice to do this. But I'm hearing about people who are losing their homes because they couldn't afford the tax increase. And I don't know, I'm wondering, is there anything we can do to help those people instead of just advertising like this? Who knows who's going to come in there and try to get their home, and whether they'll be treated fairly going forward and that sort of thing. And I don't know, I'm concerned about it. I said when the revaluation was done, somebody was going to lose their home. You know, I preach at a church every Sunday. I'm not the pastor, I just preach there, and they pay me $200 a week. And most of last year, I had to take half of that and put it back to be able to pay the extra taxes on my place. Some people aren't that fortunate. And I just feel like we're, I don't know, it just, something about it, even though I know it's the usual thing, it seems heartless to me. And it just bothers me. I don't know if I can vote for it.
And Commissioner Pittman, before we hear from our tax administrator, I don't disagree with you. I think last year the significant tax increase put a number of folks in a position and put them in a bad position. And taxes were, we've seen a dramatic increase. And so I don't disagree with you on that. And we're having the budget process come up soon where we'll be able to address this, to be able to address the property taxes that we see in Cabarrus County and what the increase looked like and if we can bring the tax rate down, what a decrease would look like. So it's absolutely, I want you to know and feel comfortable that, it's absolutely something that we're going to address during the budget season. But could you give us a little background just on this particular? I believe we had discussed this a little bit at the work session, but can you give a refresh?
Sure.
For all of us and for the folks here listening.
Yeah. This statute, the item before you is required by statute for the tax collector to present the first Monday in February those taxes that are a lien on real estate. So those taxes that are unpaid from the previous tax year. Required to report that, and then you're required as a board then, as the statute reads, to direct me to advertise those liens, and we advertise those in the paper. The step we take between that is to send a delinquent notice out. So we notify each of those taxpayers to make sure they're aware that there's outstanding taxes. We give them opportunity at that point to contact us. Certainly, our goal is collection of the tax, but we want to do that in the most respectful manners possible. Having that communication with our taxpayers is the way to do that, in my opinion. This allows us that opportunity to provide that notice, have that communication. We hear from our taxpayers. Your point of foreclosure is one of the aspects of authority that I do have as a tax collector. It is not the only means of collection that we have. We have an excellent staff that works year-long, working with taxpayers, trying to figure out ways and means to help them through the process, make payment plans, itemize ways to make payments if they have struggles with that. So we're here to help, even though that may sound odd from a tax collector standpoint. Our goal is to work with folks to help them make payments. Our goal is not to take property. As you're aware, the county is not in the position of trying to take property from people, nor is it my position as a tax collector to do that. So.
Well, thank you for that. Related to that, I'd like to ask, and I obviously don't want you to name names and stuff like that, but do you have folks who've had a problem paying their taxes and are working with you, or you're working with them on trying to make that up, even though they're delinquent now?
Yes, we have we work with folks every day who express concerns about their taxes, and we help them through the process. We establish payment plans. We have to be aggressive in those payment plans, and you may hear that if you hear concerns, because taxes are an annual thing. So it's not just a one-time amount that can take 4 to 5 years to pay off. It's got to be a plan that makes sense to keep them from being annually delinquent, but we try to make that happen. Our goal is to have taxes paid without delinquency, because that accrues interest. So at this point in the year, if those taxes aren't paid, they're accruing interest, and that's not good for our taxpayers either. So our goal is to get folks in a position where they're paying their taxes on an annual basis and able to do so before they become delinquent.
I understand that. And I will make a difference between people who just refuse to pay their taxes and people who can't.
We have some of those as well.
Yeah. So I appreciate if you're trying to help those who've had trouble paying, but I don't know, maybe this is all we can do.
Oh, and you said that we're required by state statute to...
This item before you is a requirement by statute for me to report what's outstanding, and then for you to tell me to advertise those taxpayers. So the statute requires, if we do move to a foreclosure, we have to have advertised those delinquencies. And so this is a step in that process that allows us that collection piece, but it's one piece of a range of authority that we have that we try to collect from.
And a foreclosure does not happen after 1 year of being delinquent of tax, is that correct?
That's correct. We have some internal thresholds that we look at. Typically, it's a 2-year process before we even consider that step. But as I said, there's numbers of steps before then, and our goal is to be in communication with our taxpayers, and if we're doing that and we're working with taxpayers, it's rare that we would get to a foreclosure standpoint.
Do we have any more questions or concerns?
Is this something we need to approve
Yes.
tonight? Because you said it's a timeline that we have to...
It needs to be approved for you to order the advertisement. That's correct. And accept my report that I gave.
So, Chairman, may I just
Yes.
add, just to support the tax collector statement, it is a required action, and I would just be, the process you're describing, we've got to be careful about intervening in that process because of not only the state statute, but a constitutional emoluments issue. So we just got to be careful with that kind of thing. So,
All right, I'll entertain a motion to approve the report of the 2024 outstanding delinquent taxes that have a lien on real property, and to order the tax administrator to advertise these liens on March 30th, 2025.
So moved.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Thank you, David.
Thank you.
All right, we will now move on to reports from commissioners for liaison positions, boards that you serve on, and who wants to go first?
I'll go first.
All right.
All right, so I did have my Cabarrus Health Alliance orientation to serve on that board on February the 11th, and I am incredibly excited about serving on this board. I spent 3 hours with Erin Shue and her team, and we lost track of time. We had such a good conversation. I learned so much about the Cabarrus Health Alliance and what they do, and I am holding them to the ride along that I'm going to get to do when they do. One of the things that I didn't realize they do is the grading for the restaurants. So whenever you go to your favorite restaurant and you see that grade, that's from the Cabarrus Health Alliance. I did kind of want to just highlight a few things that we did talk about. Obviously, in 3 hours, we talked about a lot. But they do have 9 members on this board, 3 at-large community members, 1 practicing dentist, 1 mental health, 1 practicing physician or retired physician, 1 Cabarrus or Kannapolis school representative, 1 commissioner, and then 1 hospital employee. Their mission is to improve individual and community health through service, education, and collaborative action. And they also practice what they preach, which was really nice to see. When you walk into the Cabarrus Health Alliance, they don't have all the unhealthy food. They do make you, if you bring food in there, it has to be healthy. So I appreciate folks that are not hypocritical. They tell you to eat healthy, they eat healthy too. Mandated services that the Cabarrus Health Alliance does have is communicable disease, environmental health, and then vital records. But they also have 7 divisions: support services, clinical services, community impact, dental, environmental health, school health, and behavioral health. And one of the things that just stuck out to me regarding the dental is they serve about 22,000 people a year in dental services at the Cabarrus Health Alliance. And so I'm really excited about serving on this committee. Their meeting is actually tonight. So unfortunately, I was not able to be there, but I will get sworn in March and be able to serve on that board. And then there were a couple of other things I wanted to mention. I did want to bring mention of the first coffee meeting. Commission on Financial Efficiency will be at 6:30 on Thursday here at the multipurpose room. I do appreciate your comments regarding not being able to find that on the website. I understand that there might be protocol that has been in place before to make it not as easy to see, but those are things that I would like to see changed as well. So we can certainly have discussion about that and making sure that that's advertised in an easier way for folks to be able to access. And then Chris and I had the opportunity to meet with the communications team, and I was very excited to talk to them about learning things about Channel 22 that I didn't really understand or know what those things were that they had been working on. And so I look forward to working with them. In fact, in a little while, you'll see my amateur video that I did with the animal shelter to highlight 2 more pets. But moving forward, starting in March, the communications team has offered generously to come to the shelter with me and actually do those videos, and they will be more professional looking than my own. And then on February the 13th, we attended we were actually all there with the exception of Commissioner Shue, the Hearts and Heroes event where folks are able, who have been saved by our EMS and fire department, to be reunited with those folks that did save them. It was incredibly emotional. I would highly encourage anyone who's never been to that event you should go next year. I will make it something that we make sure that we announce and highlight long before so that you can go. And we also had the opportunity to have a legislative meeting last night with the school system and our state representatives, Brian Echeverria, Jonathan Allman and Grant Campbell at the school board, and we were thankful to be able to be a part of that. Moving forward, giving the legislative agenda for the school system, which there were 5, and I did not bring that with me, so I apologize, but I did want to highlight that we did have that opportunity as well last night. Thank you.
Mr. Pittman or Wortman?
Most of mine happen at the end of the month, so I've only got a few. For active living in parks, they have several announcements. The Wellness Expo at the Cabarrus Arena is March 19th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. The Cabarrus Senior Games registration is open. There's a pre-K and homeschool spring sessions will start mid-March at Rob Wallace Park and are almost full. Half-day spring camp is half full, and all half-day summer camps are full. Presenting nature programming to about 1,500 students between the beginning of February to mid-March. They will be at the Cabarrus County Agricultural Days at the arena on March 4th and 6th, presenting nature education for about 250 sixth graders. Presenting a snake safety program to the Lunch and Learn community on March 9th, as well as a community snake safety program at Mount Pleasant Active Living Center that same afternoon. And then March 1st is Pokemon Go Unova Global World Tour, whatever that is. March 1st is the softball season kicks off. Weekend tournaments are scheduled through October at Franklin Park. March 10th through 14th is the spring break camp. It's at 60% capacity. There are still spots available. March 15th is soccer spring season at Frank Lisk, and March 17th is the adult athletics. That's when those begin. As far as, we did attend the Hearts and Heroes again. That's always an amazing opportunity to attend. I attended the very first Centralina Regional Workforce Development. That was the one that's in Charlotte. If you can be gracious enough to give me a few months to kind of wrap my head around how that actually works. From my understanding, it's geared towards more regionalism aspects. In attendance, I was there for the county, Mayor Hennett from Kannapolis, Mayor Teague from Harrisburg, and Councilwoman Lori Clay from the city of Concord. So we worked on that, and that meets monthly, but that was the first time I've been, and I didn't really know much about it, so I'm still trying to catch up for that. And Kannapolis, at their work session, the city of Kannapolis, in case it's been in the newspaper and on the news, but if everybody hasn't heard, Jiggy with the Piggy is no more. That is coming to an end, and they are excited about looking for things to bring to that area to showcase local businesses and replace that with something different. And they said it was just time. It's been around and it's morphed from several different things throughout the years, but they're excited to see what it can be in the future. But that was I've heard it on several news stations. It was a lot bigger event than I realized, so it's no more.
I have to say, before I get started, I looked on this thing, said expected length of presentation 1 minute, and I thought, are you kidding? Anyway.
You can have a minute and a half.
Well,
I'm just,
we'll see. Okay, I've been to a lot of stuff.
I see a big notebook there. So.
Yeah. Commissioner Lindsay and I attended a meeting with the Kannapolis City Schools on the 29th of January. Some of the highlights, Chip Buckwell, who had been in charge of that before, became superintendent again on January 31st. They have a graduation rate of 84% last year. They're one of 15 city school districts left out of 40 total. Let's see. Talking about A.L. Brown, built 1952. They have, says the building has good bones, but it needs some work. They have tiny classrooms. They've applied for needs-based funds with very little luck in getting those. And they're considering adding a standalone building and renovation to the existing facilities, as they can come up with the funds to do so. I went to the Cabarrus MPO TAC meeting also on January 29th. I had to leave one to go to the other. And they're saying they need things worked out by June to be able to establish final plans in July to meet the deadline of October for federal fiscal year. So we're working on that. The George Lyles extension to Highway 49 is now delayed. Brett Knipe, who's the division head in Albemarle, will contact me as new information on that is available. Funding for Union Cemetery Road project, they're anticipating start date maybe 2035, maybe 2045. They're not real sure when they'll be able to do that. Odell School Road, they're saying by 2035. Martin Luther King Bridge project in Kannapolis will cause road closures on 29 until October of 2026. Okay, Midland. Town Council expressed concern over the fact that building the proposed new high school in their area is at the bottom of the county's priority list, projected for about 2030. They told me that Wasatch has $11 million from the state to expand the Muddy Creek plant, which I believe has almost been completed. And they're now working on design, or no, the other has been completed. They're working on design for the expansion. They'll need to run a sewer interceptor to the school property. The land has already been purchased, paid for, and is waiting to build that school, and they're anxious about it. They're expecting, in addition, with the Muddy Creek plant, sewer stuff, and all that being done, in fact, some of that's already completed, and they're anticipating very soon to begin an addition of 1,500 homes in their area, which will mean even more need for getting that school built. Now the new sewer has the capability there for it, and they are purchasing 2 speed limit sign trailers. I went to Home Care and Block Grant Committee, and I didn't get time to put it in my notebook, so I got it on this paper. The block grant combined federal and state funding for aging issues is like 46% federal and 10% match. And funding is related to the percentage of people over 60 and minorities. And that's a lot of people in this county. They have to have documentation of cognitive or other issues so that fraud is unlikely. The current waiting list that they have for people that are needing the services and not getting them yet is 34. I mean, that's probably growing occasionally, but right now they said it was 34 who are still waiting due to lack of funds relative to the need, and it's been like a 2-year wait. Program review, they said the Aging Resource Management System, DSS, congregate serving 126 to 130 meals per day, and that's not as many as needed, really. As for transportation, they said they're way underfunded in relation to the growing need, already 238 over usual medical trips, and they have a norm. And just for February, they're already over 238 transportations for the month at no charge. Some of the people they give rides to make contributions to that program, but they're not charged for any of it, and what they get is way below the cost of the total. As for Meals on Wheels, it's not a county agency, so we don't directly give them money. But the money they had for last year was gone by October. I did ask, and they said you can look on their website if you wish to contribute. And so I don't have the website. I need to get that, maybe share it later. But I would encourage citizens, if they'd like to help with the Meals on Wheels, to go online, find their website, and make a contribution. Housing and home improvement will soon have 83 cents of what they have for the fiscal year already expended. So that's getting tight. They did have a vacancy vote, and they chose a lady named Linda Owens. I don't know her, but she's filling a vacancy on the board. Let's see. But overall, they lost $8,000 in the latest grant that they received compared to the prior year. So I'm concerned about, I mean, there's a lot of need that these people are trying to meet. And I know we don't fund a lot of that directly, but golly Pete, $8,000 less on a grant when they have growing need, that bothers me. I'd love to see if we can find some way to help with that. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. I will say that myself, our deputy manager, Kelly Sifford, Todd Shanley, and Michael Miller have met with our local delegation to go over some of our needs here in Cabarrus County, some of the items that we would like to strive for. One of our number one project we're working on is trying to get the second entrance to the Franklin Park. And we have really stressed that point to the state of how we could use some resources to help with that, because we only have one entrance in and out of Franklin Park, and currently at peak season, peak time, we could have over 4,000 entries and then exits as well. And so we want to try to bring an entrance in on the backside. I believe that we received a lot of support from our local state delegation that they are interested in helping us with that. So that's one of our number one priorities. We're going to work on trying to get some funding for animal shelter and some of the other projects that we have on a list. I have a Juvenile Crime Prevention Council meeting at 7:30 in the morning at this building, if anybody would care to join that in the morning. Also have a WASAC, Water and Sewer Authority meeting tomorrow evening. And all of these are open to the public. Any of our advisory boards, any of the commissions, any of this is open to public access if anyone would like to attend. And with that being said, do we have any general comments?
I do have one more, and I just wanted to, I had a scheduling conflict come up at the last minute for the ECA, and Chairman Meesmer graciously stepped in to attend that for me and present the check and bring the greetings from the county. So thank you for being willing to step in at the last minute to help me out.
I'm glad you mentioned that because I forgot that one. So it's hard, sometimes it's hard for me to remember what I've done the day before with so much going on. That was a great event, and the volunteer hours equated to over $1 million. And so that was phenomenal to see. All right. Do we have any general comments by board members?
Yeah, and I was actually able to attend that ECA event as well, and I had a wonderful time. It's amazing what those volunteers do. So I would like to show this second video for the animal shelter, but before I do, I want to give an update on the 3 animals that we highlighted last month. They are all have been rescued, and so we're 3 for 3 with that. So I have 2 new ones up here, Simon and Letty. So hopefully this I can say the same thing next month about these 2 animals at the shelter as well. This is Simon. He is approximately 2-year-old pit bull. He is all white with grayish spots all over him. Very playful and also very affectionate. He loved giving me kisses. He's definitely looking for a family to call his own. If you are interested in Simon, please contact the animal shelter. This is Letty. Letty is approximately 9 months old. She's a little gray kitten with about yellow brownish eyes, very sweet, very affectionate, would love to have a family of her own. She's very social and would seem to get along with just about anyone. Simon and Letty are available at the Cabarrus Animal Shelter today. Please go save them and make them part of your family. Thank you.
right, thank you. All right, so we do have a need for a closed session tonight, so I'll entertain a motion to go into closed session per NCGS 143-138.11A6.
So moved.
All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Now in closed session. Thank you. Thank you for everyone that attended.